Okay, hi everybody. Welcome. Happy Sunday. Um, Tanya here, and I've got the lovely Rain with us this morning to share with us her wisdom and her journey. And so I'm really excited to have her here. If you're watching this, say hello, post in the comments. If you're watching the replay, let us know. So, without further ado, Rain, thank you for being live with me today.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yep.
So, Rain, you live on a permaculture farm, correct? In,
Yes, I just
in
moved here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, can you talk a little bit about your journey thus far, that your journey into awakening?
What a broad question to start with.
Broad question, but obviously, you've been through a transformation, so if you could speak to
Yeah.
that, that would be great.
Yeah, definitely. So, I'd say my awakening journey started a few years ago, really. That's like when it catapulted. Um, I think the biggest catalyst with it was my senior year of high school. I went to Germany. So I really wanted to travel when I was in high school. So I looked up a bunch of programs online. I researched for hours and clicked on every single one, trying to find one that was free because I knew my parents wouldn't want to pay for it. And I found a government funded scholarship through the US State Department. So I applied to it and I got accepted, and I had to de-enroll from my high school because my high school didn't know how to give credit for something like that, ironically, even though it was a State Department funded scholarship. And my senior year, I left high school. I was living in Maryland, and I flew to Germany, and I lived there for 8 months with a host family. And I went to a local German high school. I didn't know anything about Germany. I didn't know anything about German. I learned the language within a couple months just being dropped into German life and having that immersion experience. And it changed everything. It was the first time I got to be away from my home life, and that allowed me a perspective of the world that was so vastly different than what I was used to in so many ways, and with culture, with food, with health, with um, relationships, but also just with myself and the capacity of the emotions that I could feel because I was very um, stuck with my mental health. I was very depressed and anxious and closed off to a lot of things. And being in Germany was just a whole different world, and it allowed me to see how I could feel more light and happiness in different environments and because of like the choices that I make. So once I was in Germany, I decided I didn't want to go to college. I told my parents that while I was there. I was like, when I come home, I'm not going to college. There was some resistance to that, but it was the decision that I made, and they did support me in that. I came home, we got sent home because of COVID, so that was hard, and finished my high school, my senior year of high school online. And then I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? If I'm not going to college, everyone's like, well, what are you going to do with your life?
Mhm.
Because there's this like idea that if you don't go to college, you have to have your life figured out in that moment. As like college is kind of like a buffer that you don't have to actually figure it out until after college. But if you don't go, it's like, okay, figure it out now. Um, so I just started like researching and learning all these things on my own and exploring like all these different avenues of what I could do and what I wanted to do. And it sparked this whole evolution of growth too. Of like spending that much time with myself and having to ask myself the questions of what do I want to do with my life? Like I've now left the system and I'm creating my own path, and I've realized that there's like happiness beyond the darkness and depression that I lived in for so long. So I had to face so many things, and it just uncovered so many layers over and over and over again, and it still is, as it always will. Um, and I got into entrepreneurship, got into um, cultivating my own business, realizing my passions, and it's just been an exponential journey of all of that coming together since then. And I feel like I know, like, what I wanna do with my life. I feel like I'm doing what I wanna do with my life. It will continue to evolve, but it feels so good to know that and to see, like, how the layers of awakening have brought me into a space where I will never go back to that life of being asleep or blocked or living in so much fear again, even through the waves. Um, I know that I'm on the other side of that for the rest of my life, which is really beautiful.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's really powerful. I mean, it's really interesting that somewhere in your spirit and your soul that you just had this knowing of there's something more than what's being presented to me. Like, yeah, I mean, how many kids just, yeah, it's just expected, like you go to college and it is really hard. I mean, to go out in the real world and figure it out. I think a lot of kids end up going like, "Yeah, I think I'll go back," they try it for a couple of years. They're like, "Oh my god, this is really hard. I think, yeah, I think I'm gonna go go turn around, go back and get some college
Yeah.
education," or, so that's really, yeah, testimony to the strength of your spirit and your determination to
Mhm.
true to your own calling. So what, yeah, so tell us about your business. So obviously you are carving your own path as an entrepreneur. Uh, and we all know that's not an easy path, but um, yeah, tell us about the work that you do, what you bring to your clients.
Yeah. So I have a multifaceted, multi-leveled business, um, because in my spirit, I just have so many diverse interests, and that's always a practice for me, like getting prioritized and, getting clear on a single path, but also not limiting myself to my multifaceted self. So originally with entrepreneurship, I started a pet care business, not intentionally. I just started caring for pets and then it just grew organically and people told other people and it just became like a beautiful um, financial abundance for me to be able to bring in money in that way and hang out with animals, live in people's homes. They allowed me to eat their food. It was like this really crazy perspective of like, whoa, I'm kind of getting all the things right now. And I didn't even try to build a business with that. So that was like the start of my journey. And then after having my first coach, I got more into the healing arts and the coaching arts. And the work I did with my first coach was so profound for me that I was like, what are you doing? Like, where did you learn this stuff? How are you doing this magic? It's changing my life. I want to learn it. I want to bring this to other people. So she sent me the information, and I went and I got practitioner trainings in NLP and hypnosis, emotional change technique, quantum healing. And I was going through this big um, kind of challenge of I want to like grow a business bigger, but I wasn't sure which avenue to go down. Was it the pet care? Was it my arts because I'm an artist? Or was it now this like coaching healing thing? So it became the coaching healing for a bit. And I kind of left the pet care and was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go all into helping people heal and being a guide for people in the way that my coach was for me. So I started offering coaching services, one on one coaching, and it was so profound. It's been so beautiful to help people see their own potential and tap into that and actually live the life that they desire. So I have that. I have my coaching healing offerings. And now I'm in Florida. I moved from Maryland, and I've been feeling such a deep call for animals and stewardship and care again. And that's been so interesting because I made this decision to kind of leave it to pursue the coaching and the healing stuff. but I can't deny the call. I can't block it out. It's just over and over again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm meant to be doing that. And I don't have to pick one and completely neglect the other. So I am rebuilding my pet care and stewardship business here in Florida, which I'm so excited about. So I have my stewardship services, which are for animals, and I'm including children now too. I used to be a nanny for an infant, and I loved that. So stewardship for animals, children, and then spaces like house sitting or even business sitting. And then I have my coaching healing offerings, which is helping people on their path. I've done one-on-one, and I'm wanting to grow a community with that so we can have more collective healing. Um, and then the third aspect of my business is like the investing side of it. I've been learning about real estate investing for a couple years now. It was actually the first thing once I decided I wasn't going to college that I found as like an alternative to college. It was like learn how to invest, learn how to be financially literate, and grow your money so you don't have to work for your money all the time. So real estate investing has been a big call for me, and I'm cultivating spaces where people can vacation or live and have an experience that will kind of change their life, really. To see a glimpse of like the new earth in home space or a land space, and like educational spaces too. So those are my three pillars: the healing arts, the stewardship services, and then the investing. And then I'm also an artist, but that's like kind of my side
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. Wow, I love it. So, yeah, you're really tapping into all these different arenas and um, yeah, and so I'm curious. One of the things that jumped out to me when I was looking at your website was cyclical living. So I'm really
Mhm.
curious if you could talk about that. I know that's something that you offer with coaching. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, cyclical living. It's been one of the more recent breakthroughs for me in my journey, and it has been so profoundly impactful. Um, I really came across it like last year. Uh, I was going through my own journey with my womb, as we all are, and I had an IUD for about 2 years, and it was fine. It was a copper one, it was no hormones. And I started realizing though that my body was rejecting it. Every time I would bleed, it was just like, we don't want this inside of us. It like felt uncomfortable. It wasn't like horrible pain, but I could just hear the messages from my body. So did some research, dove into it, and I ended up actually just taking it out myself. And it was the most cathartic experience ever. My womb was like, oh my gosh, thank you. I was like, whoa, I can literally just grab it, take it out. Um, so that was profound. And then I was like, okay, well, what do I do now? Like, I don't have any birth control. I want to make sure that I'm safe, but also like I just honored this message from my womb, like what's next? There's got to be more to that. So I started actually like listening to my womb more and more for the first time in my life, and it brought so many things up, so many layers of what's been hidden in that space, what's been ignored in that space. And I got a coach who does cyclical living coaching, and I love her. She's awesome. She's taught me so much. I went down my own journey of learning, reading books, researching, but also, really, most importantly, just listening to my own womb, my own body, and really growing that body literacy, which I didn't have a lot of, and I'm still learning a lot about. Um, so I learned about the menstrual cycle and how it's not just a bleed. We actually have 4 seasons throughout our cycle, and we are biologically and chemically 4 different humans during those times. Like it's so different between each season. It's crazy. And they don't teach us anything about that. I didn't know anything about my bleed except that like it's something you just have to deal with. And
Yeah, something that happens once a month, and here's how you deal with it, and carry on.
Yeah, and it's usually, like, taught as, like, this curse or this bad thing or it's painful, but you just have to deal with it. Like, it's so shamed and is taught in such, like, a negative vibrational way that women and womb holders just go through their lives like, "Yep, well, this is my suffering, my monthly suffering," uh, which is so cruel to raise people in that way and have them go through their lives thinking that. So, it was so many breakthroughs when I realized, like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is magic." Like, just
Mm.
the reframes of, like, "Wait, my body does the same thing every month." Like, it literally goes through these cyclical changes every single month. The hormones change the same, your temperature changes the same. Like, I track my temperature every night, and I'm like, "Oh my god, like, it just does that? It just does that every month, like, the same thing?" Like, "Whoa, that's cool." So, I now live my life in alignment with my cycles. So, my eating, my movement, my business, my social life, my health, all the things are correlated with my cycles, um, which I've now been teaching others about because there's so much ignorance around it in our society. And if I can teach one other woman or womb holder, like that's enough because every person that can realize this magic of their body and start tuning into it, it will change their life. It heals so many um, womb and health issues. It improves mental health. It improves our body literacy and our confidence and all the things. And it improves our efficiency too. Like with business, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can actually like get all these things done. It doesn't feel so overwhelming because I'm working with my cycles. I know when to do different tasks at different times. And the rest of the bleed is the most profound change ever.
I mean, I'm just drinking all of this in because it just to me, I can feel and sense really how, something that was seen really seen as something to be shamed or a curse or, something you don't talk about, it's no big deal, like whatever the things were. I mean, I know for myself, definitely that was my experience as a child. I started bleeding and my mom's like, "Here, put this on." That was it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, it's kind of a scary time, and it's definitely time to break that generational story of it. Okay, there's this curse and the shame when actually it is this amazing, powerful journey that we go through every month, and if we, I mean, I'm super fascinated and definitely drawn in, and I can
Oh,
totally relate to the birth control. I remember, I mean, I never really was on it except once, and had a one of those patches. Uh, and I think it was maybe 3 months in, and my body was literally screaming like, "Take it off!" I'm like,
yeah.
screaming at myself, and it was like, oh my god, like, it's so dominating and controlling of our bodies. It doesn't allow how we are designed to flow and move and be, and so, I really just love hearing about that, and I hope others are tuning in and, having the aha moments of, like, and the curiosity and, like, wow,
Mhm.
what happens when we actually tune in and tap into that? Um,
Yeah.
now I'm curious because, you are you are a young woman, and
Mm.
you are definitely a courageous woman. Is there a message that you would want to share with other young women that are possibly listening to this right now and maybe struggling or, what would you wanna say to them?
Wow. So many things. Um, First and foremost, to trust yourself and trust your body because everybody's body is so unique. And learning our personal body literacy is the most impactful thing you can do in your life because your body will give you answers and communicate with you in ways that nobody or nothing externally can ever give to you. And I've been on this journey a little bit right now with my gut health, of really trying to like clear out my gut. And there's so much information out there. There's so many different recommendations and advice and different paths to go down. And it's been so overwhelming. And I just have to continuously bring myself back and be like, let me listen within. I can learn those things, but let me listen within. What does my body say? And so if you take that time with your body, if you put your hands on your womb or close your eyes and breathe into different areas of your sacred vessel that you are always in, always living in, always will live in through this life, you will actually receive so much wisdom, so much more wisdom than you could ever expect to receive from anywhere. And it requires patience, and it requires trust, and it requires surrender, because it's so much easier to try to get that information from an external source, to look up the question on Google or to search for a podcast. And there's this resistance that comes when we have to sit and actually just surrender to the unknown of like, well, what if my body doesn't know? Or what if my body tells me something and I don't know how to listen to it? Or it always comes through. And another aspect to that is that sometimes it takes a few back and forths in that conversation with our body. I talked about this on a podcast I recorded myself the other day, of if you sit and you ask your body a question and you surrender and you listen to it and you get this message, and then you take that into action. For example, it's like, um, eat pineapples today, and you go eat pineapples, and then you don't feel good that night, then you can sit with your body again and be like, hey, like I did what I thought you were telling me to do, but I
Mm.
don't feel great. Like, what does this mean? What is this showing me? And allow that conversation, because it's not always like you ask one question and you get one answer and then everything's healed and everything's done. It's like
Mhm.
you ask a question, you get a response, you get to respond to that, you get to actually have this flowing conversation with your body forever, like your whole life, because things change too. It's cyclical, like it's ever flowing. You get to keep tuning in and building this relationship where your ability to receive the messages from your body will get so much quicker and easier, because you've strengthened those muscles within yourself.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I love that you're stating that it does take patience, for sure. I'm on my own gut healing journey as well, and,
Oh,
we're so conditioned to want the quick fix, the immediate result, the overnight success, whatever, and it's like, wow, once you really commit to, "I'm gonna listen to my body, I'm focused on healing it, I'm gonna take it slow, I'm gonna really listen," you realize like, "Oh, I am changing my lifestyle altogether." And, uh, and this is a lifelong journey. This isn't gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a diet for a couple months and then I'll be great and I can just whatever, go back to the old."
yeah.
And it's like, no, this is a new way of being and cultivating that relationship, and it really is a relationship with your body.
Mhm.
The back and forth, being spiritual beings having a human experience, uh, we can forget that we do have to deal with the physical, corporal reality that we're in, that, things down here move a little bit slower than, what we can conceive of up in our, mind's eye and our imaginations and so forth. But, um,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 that's really powerful. And, so let's see here. I think that if you have anything more to add, if there's anything else you want to share, now's the time to do it. Otherwise, it feels to me like we're coming to a close. Uh,
Mm,
and so anyone that's listening to this, if they're really if if you're curious to know more about Rain, she's on Instagram at Our Earth Warrior. Her website is ourearthwarrior.com. Right now it has some technical difficulties, but it's going to get
yeah.
online soon. Um, so yeah, definitely reach out to her. And Rain, is there anything more that you want to add?
Mm. I'd just like to invite everyone who's listening to really tune into following your heart because, as mentioned at the beginning of this um, conversation, my journey, my awakening all started when I did that, when I decided to do something differently than the system and what everyone expected of me. And it was so radical that, like, even if the system was surprised by it. Like, they were like, we can't give you credit for something that makes logical sense to get credit for. Um, but none of that mattered. None of the details mattered. I just knew what I wanted to do. And if you can do that, if you can sit with yourself and figure out what you really want, what your body needs or what your soul needs, and let go of all the noise, let go of all the external input, and let go of your own internal blockages, the fear, the limiting beliefs, and just really lean in to the truth of what you know you're meant to do, everything will work out. It's so, like, cliche, but
Yeah.
it's so real. Like, there's always going to be the waves. Things will always have those harder moments. But when you're doing what you're meant to be doing, it always works out. And those harder moments feel that much easier. So I just invite everyone to sit with that and really take some time to reflect. Like, what do you want? Because you can't do it until you know it. So meditate on that, journal on that, and just lean into one thing that you really want and allow that to grow more and more until you're living the life where you wake up and you're like, wow, I've created this life, I've cultivated this life, and I get to keep doing that every single day.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, 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 definitely. The cultivation, the dedication, the trusting, the faith. Yeah, it's so good. Thank you so
Mm.
much, Ray. I really appreciate you. I love your spirit and your heart and your soul. And this is really beautiful. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your story with us.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for asking the questions and being a steward and a guide, and I'm excited to interview you back.
Yay. Yes. All
Mm.
right. Goodbye, everybody. Talk soon.
Goodbye.